Hello guys and welcome back. My name is MoreXP. Because skills in star sectors are either very straightforward or very confusing for new players, I thought I would start a series of videos where I am breaking them down in details. I'm also showing you videos of these skills in action, so we will have a side-by-side of a ship without that skill and with that skill. Keep in mind, I'm just taking that skill, so it's not a full build. There will not be any other skills to kind of complement it, so at least we kind of see the difference of just that scale by itself. And then I'm going to rank them on a tier list. The tier list, keep in mind, is very subjective, okay? The way I play the game might be different from the way you play the game, the way you enjoy the game. But I think just the showcase of this skill is going to be more than enough. The tier list is just for fun. So this first video is going to focus mostly on the combat skills because this took a lot more work and a lot more time than I expected. And I will timestamp these skills for your convenience. We're going to start with the first one, which is Helmsmanship. This skill provides your ship with an extra 50% maneuverability and plus 15% to the top speed. This is the side-by-side comparison of the Paragon maneuverability with Helmsmanship versus without it. So I chose the Paragon because it's one of the slower ships, but it's also one of the most popular one, and that way people will be able to easily kind of see the difference. One of the biggest things that surprised me was how initially at the beginning it doesn't seem like there's much of a difference in terms of like agility, but at the end the difference becomes a lot more obvious. Then I thought the Paragon wasn't enough, so I went for the other ship that I know that's very popular and also slow, the Onslaught. And this is going to be the side-by-side of the Onslaught with versus without it. So it's almost the same thing as the Paragon, not much of a difference at the beginning, but then we start to see the gap at the end. Another thing I wanted to point out is how underwhelming the skill looks, but when you play the game, it feels a lot better than what it looks right now. So the elite version of this skill gives your ship plus 10 SU per second, and that is a flat plus 10 to your top speed no matter what type of ship you have. It's when we get to the zero flux speed boost that we start to run into some trouble. See, the opportunity to activate the zero flux speed boost at any flux level sounds very good on paper until you take the ship into the battlefield, and then it actually starts to look pretty useless. So if you knew, and this might be a little confusing for you, the zero flux speed boost is usually activated when your ship has no flux and is not generating any flux as well, which means that you get a boost to your speed and you also get a boost to your maneuverability as well. You can't have any active shield because your shield continuously generates flux. Even if you might not see it on the flux bar on top of your shield, it still does it. So if you want, you can test it out. When you activate your shield, your speed boost would just not be there. It's just how it is. You will not be able to shoot because that also generates flux, and you will not be able to phase, or at least you can do those things, but you will not get the boost. Also, if you still have any flux to dissipate, you will not get the boost. However, with elite Helmsmanship, you can still get the boost even if you have some flux to dissipate, but you still won't be able to get the boost if your shield is up, or if you're actively shooting at a target, or if you're venting, or if you're overloaded. So it makes this feature very situational. So I decided to test this skill on the Aurora because it's one of my favorite ships, but because the Aurora already has plasma jet, I wouldn't really use this skill to increase its speed. You could use it to increase its maneuverability, but there are other things you should be doing with that extra skill point anyway. It's up to you, but this is just for testing purposes. So as you will notice, with elite Helmsmanship, we don't have to wait for the flux bar to fully dissipate to take advantage of that boost. I stop shooting, here is the boost kicking in, as you can notice from the back of the ship. And then I'm going to shoot again, I'm losing the boost. So as I'm actively generating flux, I will always lose that boost, but I do not have to wait for my flux bar to go down. See, my shield is on, I lose the boost. One of the silly things I was thinking, I was like, well, what if you go backward? What if you're retreating and, you're trying to get that boost as you're retreating? What can you do? Well, I wasn't too sure. I just thought of, it was just a silly idea. What if I'm retreating? Can I take advantage of the boost? Yes, obviously you can take because I have the boost. Then if I'm shooting as I'm retreating, no, I do not have the boost. If I put my shield on as I'm retreating, I will not have the boost. So that is the tricky thing with the zero flux speed boost. It's very hard to manage, but I can see that this can really help you when you least expect it. It's just, I wouldn't really rely on it. So this skill is going to be much more useful to frigates and destroyers instead of capital ship and even cruisers, because frigates and destroyers are the ones that are much faster, which means the increase to speed is going to be much more noticeable on them. And on top of that, it gives them the ability to increase their survivability, meaning because of the speed, they can get in and out of combat a lot faster, so they can evade attack, which means that they can put a lot more pressure. If they're surviving more, they can put a lot more pressure on the enemy. For the zero flux speed boost, I think it's also the same thing with frigates and destroyers. They are the ones that are going to be able to take full advantage of it, because as they're retreating, they can take advantage of that zero flux speed boost to retreat even faster and vent and then get back into combat. Most cruisers and even the majority of the capital ship are not going to be able to take full advantage of this, because they're the ones that are either putting a lot more pressure or taking a lot more pressure. They're always gonna have to be generating flux to either attack or defend themselves. That's the reason why they will not really take advantage of that zero flux speed boost. Personally, this is not a skill that I would take even on my first 5 level, because it's just, there's other things that I can do to gain the maneuverability and to gain the top speed. Sometimes the top speed is not even a priority for me, because I'm either piloting a capital ship, which at this point I already gave up on the ability to be fast, and I am either piloting a cruiser, which is more like an Aurora or even an Eagle. So speed is not really going to be the thing. Maneuverability, ox thrusters can do that. That's the reason why for me, I would say this is a solid B tier because of its utility to frigates and destroyers. But it's not going to do much for capital ships and even some cruisers, because you could spend that skill point on something else instead of this. There are times that yes, I will put this on my build for a temporary fix if, let's say, maybe I feel like my Onslaught is being very slow, or the Odyssey is being very slow, and I need that to be able to tackle on more dangerous threat. Other than that, not really. So if this is one of your favorite skill, or the skill that you take almost always, I'm sorry to say this, but you could skip it, right? There are other things you could do and use that skill point on something that is even better. Before we continue, thank you by the way if you've liked the video already. If you have not, please hit the like button. It took me a lot of work and a lot of effort to put this video together. We're not even talking about the editing. I've not even edited the video yet. This is just me recording. The next skill on the list is combat endurance. So this one is hard to rank because depending on the ship, it's either going to be S tier or it's going to be C tier. But let's take a look at the stat first. Combat endurance gives your ship an extra 60 seconds to your peak operating time, a 25% decrease to the combat readiness degradation after the peak performance time has run out, and an extra 15% to your maximum combat readiness. The elite version of the skill gives your ship the ability to repair itself, either an extra 2000 hull point or 50% of the maximum hull, depending on which one is greater. This is a side-by-side of the Brawler LP with combat endurance versus without it. So every ship with safety override, like the Brawler LP, have to have combat endurance and the hardened subsystem hull mod. That is not an option. I mean, it is an option, but then again, I thought we were playing this game to win. I've also tested the hull regeneration of the Eradicator and the Pirate Afflictor. So with the Eradicator, I went for a shield shunt ship to kind of test the viability of that build anyway, because I kind of see the utility of combat endurance for a shield shunt ship, or even, well, I mean, the shield shunt ship is almost going to be a little bit like a fish ship. It's just not as good in terms of defenses. So here we see that it's putting a lot of pressure. The flux is pretty good, stabilized, and we are starting to take damage to hull. But I think here the hull restoration is starting to kind of work. So you can see that in action. Slowly here we took some damage, it got fully repaired again, and then eventually we're going to start to take a bit more damage, and it's going to keep repairing. And that's the good thing with hull restoration, is the continuous repair of the ship. The downside is when we start to take a bit too much, and I feel like after the combat goes on for a bit too long, that restoration just slows down a bit. Maybe it's just me. So I thought let's try the same thing again, try the hull restoration with a phase ship. This is not really a fair fight because you don't want to put a phase ship against against fighters and carriers, but I just wanted to really see, like, if we put a lot of pressure with its weakness, is it going to survive long enough? This is not even a great setup in terms of weapons and hallmarks and all that stuff and skills. Keep in mind, when I'm testing all of these, I'm only taking the one skill. I'm not taking all the other skills. So this is probably going to be a bit more efficient with like a fully decked out like build, a proper build. But I just wanted to see, okay, can it survive its weakness with hull restoration? And so far we're not taking much damage, but I can tell that much of our armor is gonna getting destroyed, especially at the back. Okay, now at the front, trying to survive as much as possible. Obviously we're not gonna survive this. We're not gonna do any damage. We're barely doing any damage to these ships because I didn't do a good job at putting it together. But that wasn't the point. The point was more so, can we survive? With carriers, it's looking like we can. Eventually, I guess I could try something else, like maybe another setup. So now we're starting to see the hull restoration in action. Not as much as I expected, I'm gonna be honest. My honest opinion, I'm not 100% satisfied with it in terms of the restoration. That's what I'm talking about. But because this is a phase ship anyway, it will always have combat endurance. So this wasn't really a give or take. It wasn't optional, as I said before, but I just wanted to test out, is it going to help it survive? When using this skill for safety override ships, or for phase ship, or maybe even for shield shunt ships, it is 100% an S tier skill. It is a must-take skill because it increases the operating time of the phase ships or the safety override ship. But on top of that, the slow degradation is amazing for those ships. Then we have the hull points regen. I personally think for phase ship, that's going to be great. For shield shunt ship, that's going to be great as well because it's just going to increase their survivability. But for the other ships, it is not needed. You don't need the peak operating time. The slow degradation of combat readiness is not that needed for a lot of regular ships because they can last long enough. It is only the phase ship and the safety override ships that really needs that. So for that reason, combat endurance is a solid A tier because of how necessary it is for some ship. And even with those ships, the increase to their performance is significant. The increase to their survivability is significant. And I would put, even on a regular ship, I would put combat endurance before I put Helmsmanship on it because combat endurance has, for me at the very least, a much more useful elite bonus. Next is impact mitigation. Impact mitigation reduces the damage to your armor by 25%. It reduces the damage to your engine and weapon by 50%. The elite version of this skill gives your capital ship and cruisers an extra 50% maneuverability, an extra 25% maneuverability for your destroyers and your frigate. This is a side-by-side of the Onslaught with impact mitigation versus without it. So testing this is going to be very complicated because I have to not put any weapons since I'm not going to be attacking at all. I'm not going to put anything on it. So the test is going to be how many rotation can we do, right? Like we can see obviously on the left hand side at the bottom how the armor is doing. So far not so good. Let's see, rotation wise, how many rotation can we do? How many rotation can we survive? Not many. Plus this is very slow. Then we're gonna go ahead, put in impact mitigation, not the elite version, just regular impact mitigation. And then let's try again one more time. Then see if it lasts a lot longer this time. Obviously it would, but then again, this video is going to give us an idea of how much, right? So far it's looking pretty good. Negative 25% again, keep that in mind. We're doing okay. Much better than before, definitely. There is a big difference. The armor is lasting a lot more. But then again, the AI is very good at taking an angle where they can do a lot more damage to the hull and they don't have to deal with the armor. Like, it's moving more towards that side because it knows. Okay, so now let's run this with the elite version. So keep in mind we have an extra 50% maneuverability. Armor is doing a decent job. It's lasting long enough. But the increase in maneuverability here helps us shift the damage even more. Obviously we're losing a ton of armor, but then again that is just a naked onslaught. There is nothing else on it. It's looking okay. We're taking less damage. We're able to turn a lot faster. So it's surviving a lot more because it's able to like distribute that damage a lot easier. Yeah, this is way better. Yeah, and then now it's just hull, so there's nothing we can do here other than just die. But yeah, big difference. The difference between having impact mitigation and not having it is just, it speaks for itself. I think this is a must-have skill no matter what. Personally, it's either this one that I take first or field modulation. It depends on which type of ship that I have. If I have a very shield-heavy ship, then I will go for field modulation first. This is one of the reasons why I do not bother so much with helmsmanship, because I just don't need the 50% when I can get it with a skill that is just superior in every way. The other thing that I like about this one is the 50% damage reduction to my engine and my weapons, because it does happen that sometimes you just don't have the shield anymore. You have to take down your shield to manage your flux, and this helps you keep putting pressure on the enemy or helps your engine from not flaming out from taking damage. So if I were to rank this one, where would I rank it? Personally, it is an easy S tier because of how crucial it is. All my captain will have it and I will have this. This is a skill that I never think about it twice. When it comes to my captain, then it does depend whether I want to put the elite version on it. It depends on what kind of ship they have. Easy S tier for me, and I think it's probably the same thing for everybody else. Unlike impact mitigation, which decreases the damage your armor takes by 25%, damage control decreases the damage your hull takes by 25%. It also decreases the amount of crew you lost when you take damage to your hull by 50%, but this skill also gives you a 50% faster in combat weapon and engine repair. The elite version of this skill gives your ship the ability to repair engine and weapon even when they're under fire, as long as they're still functional. Let's go ahead and test the onslaught with damage control versus without it. So no skills whatsoever, no hull mod, no weapons, not necessary. We're going to go ahead and face an enemy onslaught just like we did for impact mitigation. This is going to be much easier. We just want to tank all the damage, see how long it lasts without damage control. Also, we're going to pay attention to the weapons, how much damage they're taking. Okay, good. So now we're facing the onslaught again, but this time with damage control. We're only paying attention to the damage this time. We don't have the elite version, so we cannot repair our weapon while they're taking damage. So they should get disabled just as fast as without damage control. Keep in mind it's only 25%, but that can be fairly significant. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll see in post, but that felt really fast to me. So now we have damage control with the elite version, meaning that technically the thermal pulse cannon should take longer to get disabled. In terms of damage, obviously we should take the same amount as before, but those weapons should take a lot longer before they get disabled, which seems to be the case actually. Okay, maybe not. But then again, I mean, we don't have any shield to kind of to give those weapons a chance to recover. So after doing the test, for me, it does seem like the 25% reduction to hull did not make much of a difference. Not as much as impact mitigation. That it was very clear. What I noticed was that it took slightly longer for the weapon to get disabled because obviously with the elite version, they are getting repaired as they're still taking damage. So as long as they're not disabled, they will keep getting repaired, and on top of that you do get the 50% faster combat repair. I see a combination here with like other faster repair for weapon and engine to really put a lot of pressure on the enemy, because you could be tanking a lot more hit without your weapon getting disabled and your engine getting disabled. The 50% reduction to crew loss when you take hull damage, frankly, I don't really see much of a utility in it. Damage control, I do admit that it's something that I always took because I always took impact mitigation and I thought it was a good combo. But after doing this test myself, in isolation, it does not look like it's that worth it, but it's something that I will always put on my ship that are more exposed because of the weapon and engine repair. So if I were to rank this one after such a disappointing result in terms of the testing, I would say this is much more of a B tier skill. I really thought the negative 25% to hull damage taken was going to, I was going to see the difference. I did not see it at all. From now on, I think I'm actually going to start changing this toward maybe do something else with that skill point. There are certain ships that will always have it because of the repair, that's for sure. Those are going to be my phase ships and maybe my shield shunt ships if I have any, or ships that are sometimes exposed like the Conquest, the Odyssey, or even the Onslaught. But I would say this is very, I'm not too sure about this really. I will have to do more tests in the future again, but I expected a lot more from this, and the result is very disappointing. Field modulation, easy S tier. Next, okay, I'm joking. I almost always pilot ships that are either shield heavy or phase ship. So something like the Aurora or the Paragon, or phase ship like the Doom. Field modulation decrease the damage to your shield by 15%, and because a good shield is probably one of, if not the best defense in the game. But on top of that, the flux generated by the active cloak ability by your phase ship is decreased by 25%, but then the elite version of this skill gets even crazier. So you get a 20% hard flux dissipation while your shield is active. So not only you take less damage on your shield, but you also get to manage it easier. Now for phase ship, they get a 50% reduction to the cooldown of their phase cloak ability. This is extremely noticeable. There's a big difference. Lastly, but also I would say the weakest feature, is the 25% reduction to your overload duration. It is a nice little bonus to have, but then again, this skill already is packed with good stuff, and the negative 25% to your overload duration is something that you never want to need anyway, but I understand that it can happen. So I'm going to test the Onslaught without field modulation. The reason why I chose the Onslaught is because it's a weak shield ship anyway, so we should see the difference with and without field modulation. I'm not going to test the overload duration because there's no point. It's a nice bonus to have. Okay, so now we have the Onslaught with field modulation. We should expect a little bit more. Obviously 25% is not massive, but we should expect it to take slightly longer before it starts to overload. Yeah, it might be slightly more, we'll see. Now I'm testing the Onslaught here with the elite field modulation. I'm testing the same way I tested the other one, but I shouldn't, because technically to see the benefit of the hard flux dissipation, we have to stop taking damage. So this was not the best test, but you know, why not test it while it's taking damage too? It seems to be on par with just regular field modulation. It doesn't seem like there is much of a difference. For me, again, field modulation is an easy S tier because the best ship in the game are either shield heavy ships or phase cloak ships, and this skill makes these ships even more broken. The next skill on our list is point defense. Now, I have to admit that this skill is very overshadowed by mini grid skill in the whole combat section, but you shouldn't really sleep on it. It's not a bad skill per se, because just like combat endurance, point defense can be S tier with an asterisk. Let me explain. So it gives your ship and your fighters 50% extra damage to enemy fighters and 50% extra damage to enemy missiles. This can make an enemy carrier or enemy missile vessel almost irrelevant during a battle. So to test our point defense, I decided to use the Astral, because we're going to be getting 50% increased damage to our fighters anyway. Not with this first test because we don't have point defense yet, but I wanted to add a bit more interceptors because our fighters are supposed to be doing 50% damage, 50% more damage to the enemy fighters and missile as well. So that's the reason why I have a bunch of fighters and a bunch of heavy burst lasers for point defense as well. So this is going to be the test with our point defense against another Astral. Let's see how that goes. I'm not expecting to win this engagement, but you never know, right? We do have a whole lot of heavy burst laser to take care of the fighters and missile. So I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be a victory. To be honest, my confidence is not that great, but we'll see. Now I need to add pressure with my squall as well. I didn't engage that early enough. Okay, we're about to overload. This is not looking good. Let's keep applying pressure on the enemy. Hopefully, let's see. Hopefully okay, it looks like we've defeated a lot of the fighters, even though I don't have point defense yet. Because yeah, we are the one putting pressure on them right now. So it's looking okay, but it seems like I didn't need point defense in the first place to beat another Astral, and that build was not even a great build, by the way. It was just something that I threw together. Okay, I'm losing armor. I didn't see where that came from. I gotta be careful. So let's see here. Okay, so that was that. So this is going to be the Astral this time with point defense, again with the same enemy, another Astral. So we're going to engage early because I've made a mistake before this. I did not engage my fighters early, and even though we won, I felt like we didn't dominate as we should have. This time it feels a lot better because I decided to engage my fighters a lot earlier. It seems like we're putting a lot more pressure on the enemy. Obviously, if we can get the longbows out of the way, our shield is not going to take so much damage. But pressure wise, it's looking like this time we are putting a lot more pressure on the enemy, for sure. It feels like it. Oh yeah, it definitely feels like we're putting a lot more pressure. So okay, it was just a mistake of not engaging a lot earlier, but now we're doing a lot better. Yep, I can definitely feel it. I don't see much of the fighters. It just seems like the fighters are coming out and just getting destroyed right away. And it seems like we are definitely dominating. This is so much better. Let me see. I'm going to take my shield off. I'm going to keep... Yeah, we're definitely dominating. Okay, I made a mistake previously. I didn't deploy my fighters earlier to engage with their fighters mid-combat. There you go. So let's go again. This is the Astral with elite point defense. Okay, I made a mistake and I used my... Okay, we're going to engage. I made a mistake and used my unique skill earlier. Anyway, we're not gonna need it. It doesn't matter. So we're going to engage. I am not getting shot at a lot, so we are doing a lot more. And the point defense, oh, it makes a difference. The range on the point defense does make a difference. I'm not getting hit as much. And I have not used my squall to put a bit more. Yeah, I should have used my squall more. So the extra 200 range on the point defense is very good. I did not know it was going to be this good, because not much of the missiles are reaching me, not many of the fighters are reaching me, and my fighters are doing a very good job at destroying their fighters as well. So yeah, my flux is barely moving right now because the squall is not reaching me, and the fighters are not reaching me either. Wow. Okay, yeah. I did not know that the extra 200 range to point defense will be this great. It helped me, it definitely helped alleviate some of the pressure from the fighters and the missiles as well. After doing these tests, I am pleasantly surprised. Even though I did not believe in this skill before because I rarely took it, I had my suspicion that there was some kind of play here, there was potential here. So in a way, yes, I was wrong for not believing in it, but I was right that there was potential because there is. This skill is extremely effective at doing what it does. After seeing what an Astral against an Astral, it wasn't even a competition, and I didn't even have any other skill. Keep in mind, there are 2 other skills in the leadership section, which we'll do a video about in the future, that amplify the damage and the effectiveness of fighters. So to see that I only took 1 skill and it did this well, I think this is a skill that before I would have ranked at about E tier, maybe D tier, maybe even F tier to be honest, because I rarely took it. I don't really think for like how many years I've been playing Starsector, I don't think I've taken this skill even once, to be honest, because there are so many other skills that I'm thinking, oh, those are better. And that's the issue with point defense. It is very much overshadowed by other skills. For me, a ranking now for point defense is going to be a solid C tier. But to be honest, if somebody is thinking, hey, this is an S tier or a tier skill, I wouldn't even argue. But because I don't use this skill often, and I don't have many carriers and fighters in my fleet overall, I'm just gonna keep it at a C tier. This skill is definitely one of the most effective skill at doing what it's supposed to do. So the next skill on our list is target analysis. So this skill gives your ship 15% extra damage to cruisers and 20% extra damage to capital ship. And these are going to be the main threat on the battlefield. You can also upgrade the skill, get the elite version, which will do 5% more damage to frigate and 10% more damage to destroyers. If you're piloting a capital ship or cruiser, an extra 5 to 10% damage to frigate and destroyer is still significant. For some people, this seems like, oh, it's not that much, but it is significant depending on what type of ship is using target analysis. On top of that, you get an additional 100% damage to your enemy weapon and engine. So to test target analysis, we're going to be using the Onslaught. This is the Onslaught without target analysis. Let's see how we do. Okay, right off the bat, it's looking okay. Okay, I'm not too sure if we're going to, it looks like we're going to win this, but I'm trying to keep my eyes on the damage overall and also how fast we're taking this Onslaught out. So there's no strategy here. we're just hitting each other as hard as we can and see who goes down first. That's really it. Ideally, with target analysis, we should be dominating this even more than right now. It seems at the moment we are not doing that great. We almost lost this this fight. All right, so We barely won this one. Now we're gonna go ahead, put on target analysis without the elite version, and we're going to go ahead and face the onslaught again. Same setup, but this time with target analysis. Are we going to dominate? Are we going to be able to tell the difference? Ideally we should, but we'll see. So again, I'm just facing, I'm not going to vent or anything like that. I'm just going to purely just hit it as hard as I can. I don't care how much damage I'm taking. The point here is to see if I'm just going all out, balls out, how fast can I take this enemy out with the increased damage. It's looking like we are very much dominating, way more than before. For sure, like I can definitely feel that there's a big difference. We'll see that in pulse, see how much of a difference it makes, but overall I think it's game over. Okay, if you ask me, this was a lot better. But this is the onslaught against the onslaught again, this time with elite target analysis. So with this one, we should be doing a lot more damage to the weapons. So we should be taking a little bit less damage because we are disabling some of the weapons. We're doing 100% damage to the weapons. As you can see, a bunch of the weapon got disabled. So hopefully we can dominate this one. Again, I'm not going to vent and take advantage of the situation. We're just going all out, balls out, to see if it makes a big difference. So far, not so good. It seems like even while we're disabling the weapons, we're still taking a lot of damage. A bit surprised, to be honest. And we won just barely. So with disabling the weapon, it doesn't really seem to make much of a difference. Maybe there was, I don't know, maybe there's something I'm missing. But we did disable the weapon a lot more. When you take target analysis, you do feel the difference because you do more damage to some of the main threat. You take the elite version, you start to do a bit more damage to frigates and destroyers, and on top of that, you get 100% more damage to the weapon and the engine. It is one of those skills that I always take. It's one of those skills that I always give to my captain, and you should always think about putting this skill on your ship. For that reason, target analysis is an easy S tier, mostly because of the damage output, but also because it is such a universal skill, unlike the next skill that we're going to talk about. The next skill is Ballistic Mastery. Ballistic Mastery gives your ship an extra 10% damage dealt by ballistic weapon and an extra 10% range to your ballistic weapon. So to test Ballistic Mastery, we are going to be using the Onslaught. Facing another Onslaught, so this is the Onslaught without Ballistic Mastery. Yeah, this is very close. I might lose this one. Yeah, I'm going to lose this one for sure. Yeah. So now this is going to be the Onslaught with Ballistic Mastery. So we're getting 10% damage, 10% range to all the ballistic weapons. I'm not really gonna bother testing out the range. I am more interested in the damage, the extra 10% damage. Okay. Yeah, I should have not bothered venting. Definitely feels like we're doing a lot more damage. Now this is the Onslaught with the elite version of Ballistic Mastery. We're doing 5% more damage, and projectile are also traveling 33% faster. In this specific case, I don't think it matters much because this Onslaught is not going to be able to dodge anything, but in some cases you definitely want that extra projectile speed so that more nimble enemies are now able to just dodge all your attacks. In post-production, I will have to keep my eyes on the numbers to see if they really make a big difference. We'll see. The 5% more damage, I do kind of feel it a little bit. It's just not as much. Not as much as I expected. So let's see here. Obviously, we're dominating this game. So Ballistic Mastery, definitely you want to have it. It gives you the opportunity to put a bit more pressure on the enemy. Personally, I think any capital ship or cruiser that uses ballistic weapon needs to have Ballistic Mastery with the elite version anyway. So just like target analysis, Ballistic Mastery is a good increase in damage, but unlike target analysis, Ballistic Mastery is not as universal. It is very specific for very specific type of ships, but I still enjoy the increase in damage. Now I think they are a very good combination. Always take Ballistic Mastery and target analysis, because then instead of doing only, let's say, maybe 20% damage to capital ship with target analysis, you end up doing about 30 to 35% more damage, which is fairly significant. Personally, because target analysis is a bit more universal, I will have to rank Ballistic Mastery a little bit lower. So my ranking for Ballistic Mastery is going to be a solid A tier. But for me, it's definitely guaranteed that every single ship, like the Eradicator or maybe even the Brawler LP, when I have a captain on those ships, they do have Ballistic Mastery 100% of the time. So now let's talk about system expertise. This skill primarily focuses on the system of your ships. So for example, if you have something like the Odyssey, the skill of the Odyssey will have an extra charge because the Odyssey, I believe, has charges for its system skill. That's the same thing for the Doom, but other things like Burn Drive for maybe some of the Eradicator and I believe the Onslaught, those do not have charge, they have cooldown. But when we get to the elite version, things get a bit more interesting because a negative 10% to damage overall is great. For this skill, I didn't really think it was necessary to have any showcase whatsoever because you kind of get the gist of it. It's just very self-explanatory. What I wanted to test is a reduction to the damage taken by 10%. So to test our system expertise, we're gonna have to take 4 other skills, and these are going to be the 4 skills that I'm going to take. I'm also going to take the elite version for all of them. Just for the sake of control, we are going to keep the same skill, the same elite version. The first test is going to be all 4 with our system expertise, and then after that we will do another one with system expertise. So this is going to be the Eradicator against the Conquest without system expertise. Again, I'm not going to test the regular system expertise. We're going to be testing the elite version of system expertise to see how much of a difference the negative 10% to damage taken helps. I'm not really expecting to do much damage here. It's just how long can we last, really. So far, not so good. Well, then again, it is a conquest, so let's see. I'm going to try to manage the flux as much as possible, but whether I flux or don't, whether I overload or don't overload, that is not really that important. I just want to see the damage. How much damage are we taking? Let me see something really quick. Okay, Conquest is retreating. Interesting. I never thought a Conquest would be retreating for the Eradicator from an Eradicator before, but sure. I tried to manage it as best as I could. So this is the Eradicator, this time with elite system expertise against the Conquest. Same setup. Let's see how long we can last. Managing the flux is going to be a bit of a challenge, but let's see. Negative 10% damage. I will have to look at the number when I'm editing just to see if it makes a difference. Managing the flux is definitely the biggest challenge. This time I'm not overloading, so that's good. I'm surprised that the Conquest is running away from. Okay, let's see. Okay, well, I think this is it. We tried to survive as much as possible. Alright. System expertise is definitely one of those skills that will increase the lethality of your ship. but it does depend on the ship. Some ships do not require this skill. For example, the Onslaught with burn drive is just irrelevant. One of the benefits of having system expertise is for the elite version, because you get a 10% reduction to damage taken. If this is combined with impact mitigation or even damage control, it can make a difference. I'm going to rank system expertise at a high A tier. It is not yet S tier because we do have missile specialization. You have to kind of choose between those two. Yes, you can take both, but then again, you have to spend an extra 2 skill points just to be able to take both. Now, if you have a ship that requires both and you think it would be great to have both, why not? Some ships have great system skills that will do even better with system expertise. Personally, most of the ships that I use don't really need it. If I'm using the Onslaught, there's no point for me to take system expertise. I'd rather take missile specialization. We have finally made it to the last skill. It was a long journey. This was a long video, way more than I intended to be. But finally, here we are. The last skill on our list is missile specialization. So to test out missile specialization, I'm going to grab these 4 skills. We're going to be using a generic Pegasus with Dragonfire, and we're going to be facing the Onslaught. So this is the Pegasus without missile specialization against the Onslaught. Right off the bat, you can see that our missiles were not able to reach the Onslaught. So I'm going to overwhelm it. I'm just going to spam out my ability and overwhelm it. That's ideally if you really want to take care of a pesky target, this is what you would do. And keep in mind the special ability of the Pegasus regen, so you don't have to worry about anything. You just have to worry about your missiles pretty much running out. That's about it. This was not a fair fight. So this is the Pegasus against the Onslaught with elite missile specialization. So let's start right off the bat. I'm going to try to overwhelm it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have the opportunity to try out the missile regen bonus. There's no point to do so, frankly. Because the missile rack, fast missile rack is already good enough. I don't have to wait for regen. That's the reason why the Pegasus is so strong. And yeah, this was not even fair. So yeah, when I'm editing, I'm going to keep my eyes on the hit point of the missile, see how many you survive, but also I'm going to keep my eyes on the damage per missile to see if it made much of a difference. So missile specialization is a must for some ships. So if you are piloting a Pegasus without missile specialization, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's the same thing for the expanded missile rack hull mod. But even when I'm using the Onslaught, sometimes I'm using missile specialization because they have missile slots and I want to have as much missiles as possible. There is a reason why missiles are so limited in the game, is because they are so strong. My ranking for missile specialization is easily an S tier skill. So what do you guys think? This was a this was a journey. It took a long time to put this video together, so I hope this video helped new players. This was the main reason why I put this together. And also for the veteran, if you have any tips, any advice, any criticism, please don't be scared or don't feel shy or think I'm gonna get offended by it. If I did something wrong, point it out. This is not for me. This is for people who are new to the game that want to learn. I haven't seen too many people cover skills, so I thought, you know what, why not do it, right? Instead of just waiting for somebody to do it, let me just try. And maybe that's going to encourage more Starsector YouTubers to do videos like this. Although, I mean, the investment in these, the time investment and all that is pretty insane. And even right now, I am kind of starting to edit. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I kind of understand why people wouldn't do it. Yeah, that's it for me today, guys. This was a great video to put together. I had a lot of fun, a lot of frustration, a lot of hard work. If you have any question, if you're new, you're a beginner, or if you're a veteran and want to ask me a few things or whatever, leave it in the comment. I'll be more than happy to discuss with you guys. And if you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and subscribe, because there will be more videos like this, and there are other things I'm thinking about. There's a bunch of ideas that I have in my mind. I have a bunch of like playthrough scenarios, stuff like that I'm working on, but for me, the basic is more important. Doing the tutorial stuff is more important than doing like a playthrough video. So